What if the very essence that allows you to connect so deeply with the world, feeling every whisper of emotion around you, is also the invisible chain that's been holding you back from true freedom? Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, replaying the pains of those around you, wondering why their storms rage so fiercely within your own heart? It's as if you're a living echo capturing the unspoken sorrows, the hidden angers, and the quiet desperations that others carry but rarely voice. And in that moment, you might feel a strange mix of purpose and exhaustion, like you're meant for this, yet it's slowly dimming your own light. This is the world of the empath, a realm where sensitivity isn't just a trait, but a profound way of being, one that Carl Jung understood as a gateway to the deeper layers of the human psyche. Jung delved into the mysteries of the mind, exploring how certain individuals seem tuned to the frequencies of collective experiences, absorbing not just personal emotions, but the undercurrents of humanity's shared unconscious. He described this as a kind of psychic permeability, where the boundaries between self and other blur, allowing empaths to sense the unspoken, the repressed, and the archetypal forces at play in everyday life. But this gift, while extraordinary, often carries a hidden cost, one that manifests as emotional overload, unexplained fatigue, and a lingering sense of disconnection from one's own needs. To truly grasp this, consider how empaths navigate social settings, not merely observing, but immersing in the emotional atmosphere, picking up on subtle cues that others miss, like a shift in tone or a fleeting expression that betrays inner turmoil. This immersion can be both a blessing and a curse, providing profound insights into human nature, while simultaneously overwhelming the empath's internal equilibrium. Furthermore, in quieter settings, such as alone after a day of interactions, the accumulated energies can linger, manifesting as restlessness or a vague sense of unease that defies logical explanation. Many empaths describe this as a constant hum in the background of their consciousness, a subtle vibration that reminds them of the interconnectedness of all things, yet also serves as a reminder of the need for personal space and recovery. This hum can sometimes escalate into full-blown emotional waves, crashing unexpectedly and leaving the empath to wonder about the source. Is it their own unresolved issue or a borrowed burden from the day's encounters? Before we dive deeper, if this resonates with your soul's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more transformational content. Your support helps this message reach other souls who need to hear it. Jung, through his explorations of the unconscious, saw people like you as those with unusually permeable boundaries, antennas tuned to the collective undercurrents of humanity. But here's the secret: most don't realize this gift often comes wrapped in a painful illusion, one that convinces you your role is to bear it all, to heal through your own sacrifice. Imagine standing in a crowded room, not just hearing the conversations, but feeling the underbelly, the unresolved grief from a stranger's glance, the suppressed frustration in a friend's smile. It's overwhelming yet familiar, perhaps even addictive in its intensity. You might think, if I can just understand this pain, if I can hold it a little longer, everything will make sense. But what if I told you that this very urge is the hook that's kept you from healing? It's not the empathy itself that's the problem. It's the way it twists into a compulsion, a drive to fix and rescue that stems from deeper unconscious patterns. Jung would point to the archetypes here, those universal symbols and roles embedded in the psyche, like the wounded healer who channels personal suffering into aid for others. For empaths, this archetype can become distorted, turning a natural inclination into a burdensome identity. Let's pause on the wounded healer for a moment, drawn from ancient myths like Chiron the centaur, who suffered an incurable wound, yet taught healing arts. Jung saw this as a metaphor for those who transform personal pain into wisdom. But for empaths, it can devolve into endless giving, without reciprocity, leading to a cycle of depletion that feels inescapable. This distortion often goes unnoticed until the exhaustion becomes too great to ignore, prompting a search for understanding and change. In many cases, empaths report a gradual buildup, where small acts of absorption compound over time, leading to a tipping point of burnout or emotional crisis. The archetype's power lies in its universality, resonating across cultures and eras, yet its personal manifestation requires individual exploration to untangle. Empaths might find parallels in other myths, like Prometheus, bound for giving fire to humanity, symbolizing the cost of overreaching compassion. Let me pull you into this journey with a story that echoes many empaths' lives. Picture a woman named Elena, much like the sensitive souls Jung encountered in his clinical practice. From childhood, she learned to sense her family's moods, diffusing tensions before they erupted, becoming the unspoken guardian of harmony. It made her feel needed, vital. But as years passed, it left her drained, questioning her own identity amid the chaos she absorbed. Jung would say, this is no accident. It's the psyche's way of drawing you toward individuation, the path to wholeness. Yet the pain lies in clinging to that role, believing it's who you are. Elena's story is common among empaths. She found herself in relationships where she was always the listener, the supporter, pouring her energy into others, while her own dreams gathered dust. One day, a profound realization hit her during a moment of solitude. The weight she carried wasn't just compassion. It was an unconscious contract to sacrifice for belonging. This mirrors what Jung observed in his patients, where early adaptations to emotional environments shape lifelong patterns, often leading to a savior complex that feels noble, but ultimately depletes. To expand on Elena's tale as she grew older, her empathy extended beyond family to friends and colleagues, where she became the go-to person for advice during crises, often at the expense of her own well-being, illustrating how these patterns perpetuate into adulthood without conscious intervention. Elena's turning point came when she began reading Jung's works, finding resonance in his descriptions of the collective unconscious and how it influences individual lives. She started to journal her experiences, noting patterns of absorption and the emotional toll which marked the beginning of her awakening. Through this, Elena discovered that her empathy, while a gift, had been hijacked by unexamined needs for approval and security, a common thread in empathic narratives. Her story serves as a beacon, showing that recognition is the first step toward reclaiming power. As we embark on this exploration, know that I'm speaking directly to that part of you that's tired of carrying the world. You've tried setting boundaries, meditating, even distancing yourself, but the pull remains. Today we'll uncover why the most excruciating release an empath faces, not your sensitivity itself, but the deep-rooted complex that turns it into a burden. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll glimpse a version of yourself that's free, sovereign, and radiating from within. This isn't about numbing your gift. It's about refining it into something powerful and sustainable. Let's consider how this magnetic pull operates on a subtle level. Empaths often describe a sensation of being drawn into others' energies, like a moth to flame, unable to resist the call to soothe or understand. Jung linked this to the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared human experiences, where archetypes like the martyr or the healer reside. When these archetypes activate without awareness, they pull you into roles that promise fulfillment but deliver exhaustion. For instance, you might find yourself volunteering for every crisis at work or staying in draining friendships because you sense the other's hidden pain. It's as if your psyche is scripted to respond, replaying ancient patterns of self-sacrifice. Moreover, this pull can manifest physically. Empaths report tension, headaches, or fatigue after social interactions, signs that the body is bearing the brunt of unprocessed emotional loads. Addressing this requires first acknowledging the pull's existence, then tracing its roots to early experiences. From there, small steps like mindful breathing during interactions can begin to loosen its grip. Over time, these practices accumulate, creating a buffer against the constant influx of external energies. Incorporating nature or creative activities can further aid in discharging these loads, restoring balance. Have you noticed how in quiet moments a subtle fear creeps in? The fear that without this role, without being the one who feels and fixes, You might fade into irrelevance. It's a thought many empaths harbor secretly, one that Jung illuminated through his work on archetypes. He described figures like the wounded healer, someone who, through their own suffering, guides others. But for empaths, this can twist into a trap where healing others becomes a way to avoid facing your own shadows. It's magnetic, this pull, because it promises meaning in a chaotic world. Yet it's also the source of your deepest fatigue. To illustrate, think of the ocean as a metaphor for the collective unconscious. Empaths are the ones who feel every wave, every current, while others skim the surface. Jung taught that without an anchor in self-awareness, you risk being swept away, losing touch with your individual psyche amid the vastness. Extending this metaphor, imagine sailing that ocean without a compass. The empath's journey often feels directionless until they learn to navigate their inner waters, distinguishing personal currents from collective tides. This navigation begins with self-reflection, perhaps through journaling or quiet contemplation, to identify when the pull intensifies. Over time, this practice fosters a sense of inner stability, reducing the fear's hold. The fear itself can be seen as a shadow aspect, a repressed part that yearns for recognition and integration. By shining light on it, empaths can transform it into an ally for growth. Let's mirror your experience a little more. Perhaps you felt the weight of global events not just as news, but as a personal ache, the collective grief from distant tragedies seeping into your days. Or in relationships where you anticipate needs before they're spoken, only to resent the imbalance later. These are signs, signals from your psyche urging you to question the contract you've unconsciously signed to sacrifice for love, for belonging. Jung's wisdom here is profound. He teaches that true connection comes not from fusion, but from differentiation, knowing where you end and the other begins. This differentiation is the first step in awakening a gentle unraveling of the threads that bind you to others' pains. It's not about rejection, but reclamation, pulling back the energy that's been scattered. In practical terms, this might start with simple awareness exercises, like pausing during interactions to check in with your own emotions before responding to others. Over time, this practice builds a stronger sense of self, reducing the automatic pull toward absorption. Additionally, empaths can benefit from grounding techniques such as walking barefoot in nature to discharge accumulated energies and reconnect with their own essence. These methods, rooted in Jung's emphasis on balance, help restore equilibrium. Exploring personal history through therapy can further illuminate these contracts, breaking their hold. I promise you this journey is worth every step. We'll challenge the assumptions you've held, dare reveal the blind spots that keep the cycle spinning, and guide you toward a transformation that feels like coming home to yourself. My authority comes not from ego, but from years of studying Jung's depths, seeing how his ideas have liberated countless sensitive souls. If you're ready to let go of what's no longer serving you, let's begin. As we move forward, hold on to this image, you as a lighthouse, not absorbing the storm, but illuminating the path through it. This is the essence of what Jung envisioned for those with empathic gifts, a role of revelation rather than rescue. The magnetic pull may feel strong now, but as we explore, you'll discover the power to redirect it inward toward your own healing and growth. To build anticipation, know that this redirection isn't instantaneous, but a gradual process filled with moments of insight that accumulate into profound change, much like Jung's own path of self-discovery, documented in his memoirs. His personal encounters with the unconscious through dreams and visions serve as a model for empaths seeking to harness their sensitivity constructively. Embracing this model can inspire a similar inner exploration, leading to greater self-understanding and empowerment. The journey ahead promises not just relief, but a rebirth of your true self. Now that we've felt that initial pull, let's awaken to what you've perhaps sensed, but never fully named. You see, empaths often live in a state of subtle confusion, where the emotions swirling around you blend seamlessly with your own, creating a tapestry that's beautiful, yet burdensome. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious as a vast ocean of shared human experiences, and empaths are the ones who dive deepest, often without realizing they're submerged. But here's the awakening. What if much of that heaviness isn't truly yours? What if it's the psychic residue of others, absorbed through your thin boundaries, masquerading as your personal truth? This realization can feel like emerging from a fog, suddenly seeing the landscape clearly. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious explains this. It's a shared psychic space filled with archetypes, myths, and ancestral memories that empaths tap into intuitively. When you feel inexplicable sadness after a casual interaction, it might be echoing someone else's shadow, the repressed aspects they project outward. This projection mechanism is central to Jung's theory, where individuals unconsciously attribute their disowned traits to others, and empaths, with their openness, become prime recipients. Understanding this can shift your perspective from confusion to clarity, empowering you to reclaim your emotional space. It invites a re-evaluation of past experiences, where what was once seen as personal flaw is revealed as absorbed influence. This shift can be liberating, opening doors to self-compassion and renewed energy. It also encourages a curious mindset, viewing empathy as a skill to be honed rather than an uncontrollable force. Take a moment to reflect on your daily life. You might enter a conversation feeling light, only to leave carrying an unexplained sadness. Or you sense tension in a group and instinctively try to soothe it, even at your own expense. These aren't random occurrences. They're symptoms of fusion, where your ego boundary, Jung's term for the psychic skin that separates self from other, is so permeable that you take on projections without discernment. Projections, as Jung explained, are the unconscious parts we cast onto others, and empaths become magnets for them, especially the shadows people deny. This fusion leads to a loss of self, where your emotions become entangled with the collective, making it hard to discern what's authentic to you. To awaken is to start questioning, is this mine, or am I holding space for something that belongs elsewhere? Building on this daily mindfulness practices can aid in this discernment, such as scanning your body for sensations before and after interactions to note what's been added. Over weeks, this habit sharpens your ability to separate external influences from internal states, fostering a growing sense of autonomy. Incorporating breathwork or short meditations can enhance this, providing immediate tools for real-time awareness. Empaths often find that consistent practice transforms confusion into confidence, allowing for more intentional engagements. This is where assumptions start to crack. You might believe your empathy is purely altruistic, a gift to help and heal. But gently, let's challenge that. What if it's partly a defense, a way to avoid your own inner work by focusing outward? Jung observed that sensitive individuals often develop this as a childhood adaptation, scanning environments for safety, turning intuition into hypervigilance. Over time, it becomes the savior complex, the unconscious drive to rescue as a means of earning worth. It's not villainous, it's human. Yet it keeps you trapped in cycles of depletion. Consider how this plays out in practice. An empath might spend hours listening to a friend's troubles, offering advice and comfort, only to feel empty afterward. The assumption is that this is love in action, but the challenge reveals it as a pattern rooted in fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of not being needed. Jung's work on the shadow encourages us to see these defenses not as enemies, but as parts to integrate. To challenge further, reflect on times when helping felt obligatory rather than joyful. Those moments highlight the defensive layer. Gently probing these assumptions opens doors to self-compassion, allowing you to reframe empathy as a choice rather than a compulsion. This reframing can lead to liberating insights, where acts of kindness become genuine expressions rather than obligatory sacrifices. It also invites exploration of alternative ways to connect, based on mutual exchange rather than one-sided giving. Challenging these deeply held beliefs can feel uncomfortable at first. but it's the key to unlocking true freedom. Let's connect some dots you've maybe overlooked. Consider how empaths attract certain dynamics, narcissists, for instance, who offload their denied emotions onto your open field. It's shadow magnetism. Your unintegrated need for validation meets their repression, creating trauma bonds that echo past wounds. Jung called this participation mystique a primitive fusion where boundaries dissolve. The awakening comes in seeing these patterns not as fate, but as invitations to individuation, the journey to wholeness. By connecting these dots, you begin to map your psyche, recognizing how childhood roles, perhaps being the emotional buffer in a dysfunctional family, replay in adulthood. This insight is liberating, shifting from victimhood to empowerment as you realize you can choose different connections. For example, an empath might notice a pattern of attracting partners who mirror parental figures, perpetuating old dynamics until awareness breaks the chain. Connecting further societal factors like cultural emphasis on caregiving can reinforce these attractions, making the awakening a multi-layered process that encompasses personal, relational, and cultural dimensions. Exploring these connections can reveal how media and education shape our views of empathy, often idealizing self-sacrifice. This broader view helps empaths see their experiences as part of a larger human tapestry. But resistance might arise here. You could think my helping is genuine. Without it, who would I be? That's the complex, speaking the part that fears emptiness without service. Jung's foundation is clear. The psyche seeks balance, and over-identification with the healer archetype inflates the ego, leading to burnout. Instead, empaths are meant to be witnesses reflecting truths without owning them. This shift reveals blind spots, like how carrying collective shadows, ancestral trauma. Societal ills activates your own unresolved pain, creating inexplicable emotional storms. For example, during times of global unrest, empaths might experience heightened anxiety, not from personal events, but from tuning into the collective fear. Awakening to this helps you detach, observing rather than absorbing. To handle resistance, validate it as a normal part of growth, much like Jung's own struggles with his inner visions. Embracing resistance as a teacher softens it, turning potential roadblocks into stepping stones toward deeper self-knowledge. Techniques like compassionate inquiry can help, asking what the resistance protects. Over time, this approach transforms obstacles into opportunities. As we deepen this awakening, feel the subtle shift. You're not broken for feeling so much, you're awakening to discernment. The lie is that you must fix to be valuable. The deeper truth is that your presence alone awakens others. This philosophical base, drawn from Jung's archetypes, sets the stage for plunging further. But to truly understand, we must explore why this complex forms and how it perpetuates suffering. Here's where everything starts to change. Let's expand on the archetypes involved. The wounded healer, a figure Jung borrowed from mythology, represents someone who heals others through their own suffering. For empaths, this can be empowering if balanced. But when it tilts into savior mode, it becomes a cycle of self-neglect. Awakening involves recognizing this tilt, questioning the narratives you've internalized about your role. Perhaps you've told yourself that your sensitivity is a curse or a superpower. The truth lies in between. It's a tool for growth when wielded consciously. Additionally, other archetypes like the anima or animus might influence how empathy expresses, adding layers of gender or relational dynamics to explore. For instance, the anima, the feminine aspect in men, could manifest as nurturing tendencies in male empaths, complicating their expression of sensitivity in societal contexts. Exploring these adds richness to the awakening, revealing interconnected facets of the psyche. To further illustrate, think of a tree in a forest. Empaths are like the roots that interconnect with others, drawing nutrients from the soil of shared experiences. But without strong trunks, personal boundaries, you risk being uprooted by every storm. Jung's ideas on synchronicity might even play in here. where meaningful coincidences draw you to people whose pains mirror your shadows urging awakening. Resistance often manifests as doubt or defensiveness, but embracing it as part of the process softens the journey. As you connect these insights, a cascade begins from the surface awareness of overload to deeper understanding of patterns building toward the liberation of release. This chapter is your call to open eyes wider, to see the invisible threads and prepare for the depths where true healing awaits. To facilitate this cascade, try listing 3 assumptions about your empathy and challenging each with evidence from your life, creating personal aha moments. This exercise can be a powerful tool in solidifying the awakening, turning abstract concepts into lived reality. It encourages active participation in your growth, making the process personal and engaging. Diving into the core, now we confront the heart of the matter, the savior complex. That agonizing compulsion to rescue, heal, and fix, as if your very existence depends on it. Jung didn't coin empath, but his descriptions of those with thin ego boundaries paint a vivid picture. You absorb not just emotions, but entire psychic complexes, the autonomous forces within the unconscious that act like independent entities. This absorption isn't voluntary. It's the result of a psyche wired to tune into the collective, carrying shadows that aren't yours. The savior complex emerges as a distorted expression of this wiring, where empathy turns into a mandate for self-sacrifice. To explore its depths, we must trace its roots and understand its mechanisms, drawing on Jung's rich tapestry of psychological insights. This complex isn't merely behavioral. It's a psychic structure built layer by layer from early experiences reinforced by cultural narratives that glorify selflessness. Unpacking it requires courage, as it touches on core identities and long-held beliefs. The process can evoke a range of emotions, from sorrow for lost time to excitement for newfound freedom. It's a journey into the psyche's underbelly, where light meets darkness. Confronting it head-on is essential for true liberation. The origins trace back to childhood, where sensitivity became survival. Imagine a young child in a volatile home, learning to anticipate moods, absorbing tensions to maintain peace. This forges an unconscious contract: I am loved when I carry the pain. Over time, it evolves into the savior archetype, distorted where worth is tied to sacrifice. Jung saw this as the shadow of the wounded healer, using personal pain to aid others. But when unintegrated, it becomes martyrdom, resentment bubbling beneath compassion. This shadow aspect is key. Jung believed the shadow holds repressed traits, and for empaths, it might include anger at overgiving or fear of selfishness. Ignoring it amplifies the complex, leading to a life where personal needs are sidelined for the illusion of control over others' healing. Delving deeper, this contract often stems from attachment styles. Empaths with anxious attachments may use saving as a way to secure bonds, echoing early caregiver dynamics. Secure attachments, in contrast, might foster healthier empathy. But many empaths develop from insecure bases, making the complex a protective adaptation turned maladaptive. Exploring family histories can reveal generational patterns, adding context to personal struggles. Therapy focused on attachment can help untangle these roots. Let's weave this with relatable stories. Think of Clara, a woman reminiscent of Jung's patience, who poured her energy into fixing her family's woes, only to collapse under the weight. She embodied the martyr, sacrificing her dreams for others' stability, mistaking it for love. Clara's days were filled with mediating disputes, offering endless support, yet nights brought insomnia and a gnawing emptiness. Or consider Sarah, a modern empath who attracted endless projects partners, needing rescue, repeating her childhood role as emotional caretaker. Sarah would stay up late researching ways to help her loved ones, ignoring her own career aspirations, until burnout forced a reckoning. These tales illustrate how the complex perpetuates trauma bonds, drawing in those who exploit your openness, while you seek validation through their healing. In Jungian terms, it's a dance of projections where your savior meets their victim archetype, locking you in a cycle that's hard to break. Another story, David, an empath in a corporate job, always stepping in to resolve team conflicts, only to find his contributions overlooked, highlighting how the complex can invade professional spheres. David's realization came during a leadership retreat, where feedback revealed his over-involvement as a barrier to team autonomy. Stories like these humanize the complex, showing it's not unique, but a shared human experience among sensitives. They also demonstrate how the complex adapts to different life stages from childhood to career. Each story offers lessons in recognition and release. Deeper still, empaths encounter the collective shadow racism's lingering rage, war's unresolved grief, even unlived joy suppressed by society. Jung described the collective unconscious as a reservoir of archetypes, and empaths as antennas feel its tides. This leads to vicarious trauma, where global chaos manifests as personal despair. But the pain intensifies when you fuse with it, believing you must alchemize it all. Jung warned of possession when unconscious forces overwhelm the ego, causing depression or anxiety mislabeled as individual flaws. For an empath possessed by the savior complex, every news story becomes a call to action. Every friend's struggle, a personal mission stretching your resources thin. The depths reveal this as a form of ego inflation, where you unconsciously play God, controlling pain to avoid feeling powerless. This inflation can lead to grandiosity, where empaths feel uniquely responsible for world's ills, a burden no one can sustain. Exploring possession further, Jung's cases show how it manifests in moods or behaviors alien to the self, urging confrontation for integration. Recognizing possession in yourself might involve noting sudden shifts in energy that align with external events, prompting journal entries for patterns. Addressing it requires grounding practices to reclaim ego control. Address the objections head-on. If you're thinking, "But my empathy drives positive change," you're right, yet without boundaries, it's unsustainable. The complex creates ego inflation, where identity swells with others' needs only to deflate in solitude. Multiple aha moments await, realizing resentment from overgiving is your shadow speaking. Seeing how attracting narcissists mirrors your own unhealed abandonment. Understanding that true help comes from sovereignty, not depletion. Let's unpack one such moment, the resentment. Empaths often feel guilty for it, but Jung viewed it as a signal from the unconscious, urging integration. By acknowledging it, you transform it from a poison to a teacher learning to give from fullness rather than emptiness. Another aha, recognizing how cultural myths like the self-sacrificing hero reinforce the complex, making release feel countercultural. A third, seeing ancestral patterns, where empathy as survival passed down generations, adding historical depth to personal stories. These moments build cumulatively, each revealing a piece of the puzzle. They can occur in therapy or solitary reflection, often accompanied by emotional release. More ahas might include realizing how media portrays empathy influencing self-perception. Jung's philosophy here is robust. Empaths serve as awakeners, not fixers. Their role in collective individuation is to reveal truths illuminating shadows without merging. But to do so, confront the depths, the dark night, where old roles shatter. This isn't easy. Releasing feels like betrayal, grieving the illusion of control. Yet it's alchemical, turning leaden burdens into golden wisdom. The core truth: you're not here to bleed for the world, but to witness its transformation from wholeness. To delve further, consider Jung's ideas on active imagination, a technique where you dialogue with inner figures. An empath might visualize the savior complex as a weary knight burdened by armor and ask what it needs to rest. This process uncovers layers, revealing how the complex compensates for deficiencies, masking personal pain with outward focus. Practicing this can lead to vivid insights, as Jung himself experienced in his Red Book, where he engaged with his unconscious through art and writing. Active imagination serves as a bridge between conscious and unconscious, facilitating deeper integration. It can be enhanced with creative tools like drawing or music to express the dialogues. Regular practice strengthens this bridge, making integration smoother. But it goes even deeper. The savior complex often hides a fear of power, your own radiant presence that doesn't need to prove itself. Empaths, by embracing solitude, decode dreams and intuitions, messages from the unconscious guiding integration. Practices like journaling uncover patterns, revealing how empathy evolved from gift to chain. This exploration addresses resistance, the guilt of saying no, the loneliness of boundaries. Jung teaches that facing these is the path to coherence, a presence that naturally softens and awakens without effort. Let's expand with another story. Mark, an empath who worked in healthcare, always taking extra shifts to save patients. His aha came during a dream analysis where Jungian symbols showed him as a drowning rescuer. This led to integrating his shadow balancing care with self-care. Mark's transformation involved therapy, where he explored ancestral patterns of service in his family line, breaking generational cycles. Such stories inspire, showing transformation is possible through persistent effort. They also highlight the role of professional support in navigating depths. Mark's journey included lifestyle changes, like prioritizing hobbies to maintain balance. In these depths, we see the full spectrum. Empaths carry ancestral memories, symptoms unexplained by personal history alone. They're chosen vessels, but not for endless sacrifice for revelation. The philosophical foundation solidifies: heal your wounds first, then your light guides without dimming. To build on this, consider the archetype of the alchemist, which Jung loved. Empaths are natural alchemists, transmuting pain, but only when they include their own in the process. Resistance might peak here as the ego clings to familiar roles, but pushing through yields breakthroughs. For instance, recognizing how societal expectations amplify the complex, women empaths often face added pressure to nurture. Jung's work on anima and animus adds nuance, showing how gender archetypes influence this dynamic. Men empaths might suppress sensitivity, channeling it into savior roles in different ways, like providing materially instead of emotionally. Cultural contexts further shape this, with varying expectations across societies. Global perspectives reveal how individualism versus collectivism affects empathic expression. This multifaceted view enriches understanding. As we navigate these layers, multiple revelations cascade from understanding origins to seeing perpetuation, to envisioning release. The depths are not a place to dwell, but to mine for treasures emerging with insights that transform. This confrontation with the savior complex is painful, yet it's the crucible for true healing, aligning your empathic gift with personal sovereignty. To aid navigation, visualize the psyche as a labyrinth. Each turn reveals a new facet leading to the center of self. Patience is key as the unconscious unfolds at its own pace. Trust the process, knowing each step brings you closer to wholeness. The reward is a life of authentic empathy, free from chains. Embrace the journey with openness. With the depths revealed, let's integrate this wisdom into your daily life, making Jung's profound ideas actionable and real. The shift from savior to sovereign isn't abstract. It's built through small, consistent practices that reconnect you to your core. Start by acknowledging origins. Reflect on when empathy became self-erasure. Journal prompts like, when did I first learn that fixing others meant safety? This uncovers the unconscious contract, allowing you to rewrite it with compassion for your younger self. Take time each evening to write freely, letting memories surface without judgment. You might discover patterns like always being the peacemaker in family arguments and see how they echo in current relationships. This step is foundational, grounding abstract concepts in personal history. To enhance journaling, use guided questions. What emotions did I absorb today? Which were mine? Over months, this builds a narrative of your empathic evolution, providing a roadmap for change. Incorporate creative elements, like drawing symbols that represent key memories. This artistic approach can unlock deeper insights. Next, set boundaries as energy filters. Practice daily self-checks. Is this feeling mine? Does carrying it serve my growth? Learn to say no without explanation, recognizing guilt as the complex's last stand. In relationships, withdraw projections. Ask, am I rescuing to avoid my pain? This might mean stepping back from trauma bonds, grieving the loss, but opening space for reciprocal connections. Therapy can help reparent the inner child, offering the unconditional love you sought externally. For practical application, try a visualization. Imagine a protective shield around your energy field, allowing empathy to flow out, but filtering what comes in. Start small. Decline one invitation that drains you. Notice the freedom that follows. Over time, this builds resilience, turning boundaries from walls into discerning gates. Experiment with affirmations like, "My energy is sacred." To reinforce this practice, repeating them during moments of vulnerability. Boundaries also extend to time management, such as allocating specific periods for self-care amidst daily demands. Track boundary setting in a log to see progress and adjust. Celebrate successes to reinforce positive habits. Make it practical in work. If you're drawn to high-drama roles, pause and choose tasks aligned with your values, not needs. For global sensitivities, witness news without absorption, journal collective pains, then release through nature walks or art. Anticipate challenges. Initial isolation feels scary, but it's initiation into sovereignty. When resentment arises from past overgiving, integrate it through shadow work, dialogue with that part, asking what it needs. Use Jung's active imagination here. Close your eyes. Personify the resentment as a figure converse to understand its message. This turns inner conflict into ally, fostering balance. For added depth, record these dialogues in a dedicated notebook tracking evolution over time. Combine with breathing exercises to ground during intense sessions, ensuring the practice remains nurturing rather than overwhelming. Shadow work can be paired with professional guidance for safety. Explore variations like using art to depict the figures. Connect this to modern contexts. In a world of constant connectivity, empaths can use apps for mindfulness, but true integration comes from discernment. Shift to awakening mode instead of fixing. Mirror truths gently, like "I see your struggle and trust your path." This builds confidence. You'll notice energy returning, relationships balancing. Remember, Jung's individuation is ongoing. Revisit steps as needed. To deepen, incorporate daily rituals, morning grounding exercises like deep breathing while affirming your sovereignty, or evening reflections on what energies you encountered and released. In social settings, practice observing without intervening, noting how this conserves your vitality. For digital interactions, set limits on social media to prevent overload from collective energies, perhaps using timers or curated feeds. Modern tools like wearable devices can track stress levels, providing data to refine your practices. Adapt to hybrid work or online communities accordingly. Consider how technology can support, like using AI for reminders. Empower yourself with these tools daily. Meditation for grounding, creative outlets to transmute absorbed energy, and communities of like-minded souls for support. Over time, empathy evolves from burden to refined gift, fostering authentic bonds. You're not abandoning your sensitivity, you're honoring it through self-care. While Carl Rogers and personal development emphasize congruence and self-actualization, Jung's approach delves into the unconscious layers. Yet Carl Rogers and personal development offer complementary insights on unconditional positive regard, helping empaths practice self-empathy. Indeed, Carl Rogers and personal development can inspire empaths to embrace their growth journey, aligning inner experience with outer expression. Let's expand on congruence from Carl Rogers and personal development perspective, being genuine in your interactions, which for empaths means expressing when you're overwhelmed rather than suppressing for harmony. Integrate this by practicing authentic communication. Share your limits openly, fostering deeper connections. In therapy or self-reflection, use Rogers' empathy to understand yourself, mirroring back your feelings without judgment. This complements Jung's shadow work, creating a holistic path. For example, in group settings, voice your needs assertively, modeling healthy boundaries for others. Rogers' ideas on person-centered growth encourage seeing yourself as the expert of your experience, empowering empaths to trust their inner wisdom. Applying this start with low-stakes conversations to build comfort in authenticity. Rogers' framework can be explored through books like On Becoming a Person for further inspiration. It aligns well with Jung's emphasis on wholeness. For challenges like relapse into old patterns, have contingency plans, a support network, or reminders of past depletions. In family dynamics where the savior role might be ingrained, role play, new responses gradually shifting expectations. Work environments can be tricky. If you're in helping professions, schedule self-care breaks, treating them as non-negotiable. For those feeling global burdens, channel energy into focused actions, like advocacy without personal absorption. Develop a release ritual, such as writing concerns on paper and burning them symbolically. Adapt rituals to personal preferences, like using essential oils or music for added sensory support. These rituals can become anchors, providing consistency amid change. Customize based on lifestyle, ensuring sustainability. Build in flexibility for travel or busy periods. Integration also involves physical aspects. Empaths often hold tension in bodies, so incorporate movement like yoga to release stored emotions. Nutrition and sleep support energetic boundaries, preventing depletion. Track progress in a journal, celebrating small wins like a day without unnecessary rescuing. Consider holistic approaches like acupuncture or energy healing to clear residual absorptions. Pair with reading Jung's texts for intellectual reinforcement, such as Man and His Symbols, for accessible insights. Physical health ties into psychic well-being, creating a comprehensive approach. Explore mind-body connections further through practices like Tai Chi. This chapter equips you with a toolkit, blending Jung's depth with practical steps. As you apply them, notice the shift from reactive empathy to intentional presence, healing not just yourself, but rippling outward authentically. To sustain, review your toolkit, monthly adjusting as life evolves. Integration is a lifelong dance, evolving with you, ensuring lasting sovereignty. Embrace flexibility as needs change over time. The key is consistency and self-kindness. Now cement this new identity, envision yourself as the sovereign empath. Boundaries firm, heart open, no longer chained to rescue, but free to witness and inspire. Picture mornings where your energy is yours alone, empathy a choice from abundance, not obligation. You've released the painful illusion, emerging whole, radiating a coherence that draws others toward their own awakening without effort. This vision isn't fantasy. It's the natural outcome of integration, where Jung's individuation culminates in a balanced self. Feel the lightness, the clarity, conversations flow without drain. Relationships deepen through mutual respect. Imagine walking into a room, your presence calming, yet unbound, a beacon of authenticity that others sense intuitively. This new self radiates confidence, attracting experiences aligned with your true essence. Daily life becomes vibrant, filled with purposeful connections. Opportunities arise naturally, reflecting your inner harmony. Affirm your decision. You've faced shadows, integrated wounds, and chosen sovereignty. This transformation isn't end, but beginning. Continue growth through ongoing reflection, embracing solitude as sacred. Inspire others by living authentically. Your presence becomes the map they seek. To sustain, revisit dreams and intuitions regularly, using them as guides. Join or create communities where empaths share without codependency, fostering collective elevation. Host virtual meetups or journal swaps to build this network, exchanging stories that reinforce shared journeys. These connections provide ongoing support, reminding you of your progress. Communities can evolve into mentorship circles, amplifying collective healing. Engage actively to maintain momentum. Create belonging, share stories in communities, knowing you're part of a collective evolution. Feel the inspiration, sensitivity, once a vulnerability, now your radiant strength. As you step into this, notice synchronicities, opportunities, aligning with your true self, confirming the path. Celebrate milestones like healthier relationships or renewed vitality, reinforcing the change. This belonging extends beyond groups to an inner sense of unity, with the psyche's depths a profound homecoming. It fosters resilience, knowing you're connected yet sovereign. This inner belonging sustains through life's ups and downs. If this journey resonated, share in the comments one release you're committing to. Subscribe for more transformative insights.